Okay, so let's do required document, letter from Birmingham jail. It's a very, very important document, and it's very different from the other documents that we have looked at. And the difference is that it's not a document from the founding era. It's not a Federalist paper. It's not the Constitution or the Declaration of Independence. This is a document from Martin Luther King. We covered it in our Civil Rights Unit. And here, Martin Luther King is writing a letter after he has been arrested in Birmingham, Alabama, for participating in protests that were designed to bring about support for the civil rights movement and to get legislation passed and policies changed to desegregate public facilities. And what it's about, what it demonstrates, is that activism and social activism in the United States, in a democratic society, can have an impact on the public. It can also have an impact on the institutions of government, and it can successfully bring about change. So I have a quote here. I'm not going to read the whole quote. Okay, I would encourage you to pause and read it and think about it a little bit. But what he's talking about is that nonviolent action in the form of direct action, marches and sit-ins, this can cause a tension in society. It can change people's minds. It can force people to come to the negotiating table so that they are willing to bring about change in those power structures. And eventually, this civil rights movement, it's not just one event, but it's a long-term movement. Different actions happen all around the country. It's going to bring about change in the legislative policy of the United States. They're going to pass the Civil Rights Act of 64, the Voting Rights Act of 65. It's going to change public opinion. It's going to, it's certainly an opportunity to demonstrate the power of the First Amendment and expression. Even though they're being arrested, they're still, at the core value of the United States is to express, to assemble, to march. And these are things that they're exercising, even though their rights are being infringed, and sometimes they're not being permitted to do that. And it certainly can change the minds of the executive branch. Lyndon Johnson and John F. Kennedy first, and Lyndon Johnson, they end up kind of rallying behind the Civil Rights Bill of 64 and the Voting Rights Bill of 65, which comes after other examples of activism. So it's a very, very important example about how participation in the American political system, I guess is the word, it can take many different forms, and change can be brought about in many different ways. So that is a little bit on the letter from Birmingham jail. I would encourage you to read the whole thing.